In Minneapolis, Wild Greg's Saloon closes. It's the latest victim of hospitality crisis in deep blue cities. The reason I want to cover this one is because in real estate and appraisal, you've got this term called match pair analysis. It's where you extract how much buyers would pay for a particular feature within a home. So you got one home, but it doesn't have a garage, and you got another home that does have a garage. They both sell at the same time under the similar conditions. You're able to extract out how much buyers pay for that garage. It's the basis of appraisal. We've got kind of a match pair analysis here with Wild Greg Saloon in Minneapolis. Think of Minneapolis as like Portland. Had very, very similar stuff happen to it during the pandemic, right? You had the whole defunding of the police, you had rioting, all that terrible stuff. So you've got a Wild Greg's Saloon that shuts down in Minneapolis, but there are 3 other matched pair data pieces there. 2 in Florida and 1 in, I forget what it is. Is it Texas? That are absolutely thriving. Business is way up. Minneapolis, Wild Greg Saloon, not so much. Gotta close it. Yeah. So you've got this direct correlation. You can look and go, okay, if you're located in this city as a restaurant owner, that's going to be a hard no-go. You want to run your restaurant here in these very red cities, red states, because they're doing well. So what's the deal? Let's jump on in. You kind of know what the deal is, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Let's jump on in and see what we've got. The city is a ghost town, says owner Greg Urban, Wild Greg Urban. Club hasn't turned a profit since February of 2020. Now, there were a lot of restaurants that closed down, opened back up, but Minneapolis had some nutty stuff going on like Portland and Seattle did, right? I mean, along the same lines. And that rioting and, we're open, we're closed. We're open, we're closed. Very liberal makeup. And as a result, restaurants are being closed down. I read somewhere that as of March 2022, the Minneapolis hospitality sector was down like $15 billion. I mean, just some incredible amounts of money that are not being spent because people aren't comfortable going out into the environment where their restaurants are. And restaurants were closed. They're open, closed. A whole bunch of restaurants closed down. Crime and COVID-19 restrictions have claimed yet another business in the already eviscerated Minneapolis hospitality scene. Very similar to when I read the Cracker Barrel in Portland. You guys railed on me, and rightfully so. I didn't know how many Cracker Barrel restaurants there were. And then I said something to the effect of, can't remember what the name of that restaurant is, but it has to do with crumbs. Cracker crumbs, salty crackers, maybe. See a lot of salty cracker fans that come here and watch stuff as well. Wild Greg Saloon closed its sprawling nightclub in troubled downtown Minneapolis just days after its owner highlighted for Fox News the growing chasm between the restaurant cities and deep blue cities and the thriving hospitality scene in red state America. So when I read red state America, you know what I immediately thought of? I thought of AOC going maskless in Florida. She takes her vacation in Florida. But when she's back in her home state, she's like, you got to mask up. You got to hunker down, stay home. She's out having drinks, eating dinner, no mask, just looking relaxed, sunshine. Do as I say, not as I do, right? Stay home, wear your mask when you go out. But me, I'm part of the squad. I'm going to go to Florida because it's warm there. And we're going to enjoy eating out in restaurants that are open and not have to wear a mask. Yeah. So you got this real disparity between restaurants in blue areas, blue states, blue cities, and the red state America. Minneapolis is a ghost town, Greg Urban told Fox News Digital on Monday in a phone interview. We're in much better shape being closed than being open. When you are a business and you say, hey, all is well, we're good, we're closed down, that's when you know things are bad, right? We stopped the bleeding, So they weren't making any money. They were bleeding out. They were going into the negative. He added, there was a lot of time, pride, and effort that went into this place. And he's got 3 other restaurants to prove that they're a viable economic, entity, right? They're a viable restaurant. You might say, well, maybe Wild Greg Saloon sucked and that's why it closed down. Okay. No, because we've got direct proof that those other restaurants, those are 3 owned by Wild Greg's, are doing very well. They're in areas where they don't have crazies running around. They didn't defund the police. Correlation. They didn't try and burn and allow the burning of their city to happen like Portland did. And Portland's downtown wildly suffering. Portland is only Portland is only in a list of 62 cities in the United States. Did a podcast on this one as well. Portland was only surpassed by San Francisco and Cleveland in its inability to recover in the downtown core after the pandemic. It's damn near dead last, Portland is. Minneapolis, yeah, it's a ghost town. Urban also owns Wild Greg Saloon in Austin, Texas, and Pensacola and Lakeland, Florida. Those 3 operations are thriving, he said. Interesting. Let's see. Red, and they're doing good. Up 30%. Blue, not so good. Down 50% since the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, that just shows you the dichotomy of what we've got going on here, right? The restaurant and entertainment scene in Minneapolis was devastated by crippling COVID restrictions. Sounds like Washington State, except we have so many cities in Washington State that just said, hey, you know what, Governor? No. And they just kind of did their thing. And COVID restrictions dating back to March 2020, followed by riots in the summer of 2020. Amid those riots, much of downtown Minneapolis was vandalized, and a crime surge continues to ravage the city, exactly like Portland. That's the deal, right? Somebody sent me a message saying, hey, my mother-in-law or my mother, she got on a cruise ship for Alaska, and she said downtown Seattle wasn't that bad. Well, we've actually got a lot of business leaders in Seattle, and you know what they said? Get the homeless people out of downtown. We need the tax dollars. We need the revenue. Tourism is a massive thing in Seattle. Clear that area out. And so what they did is they cleared out the homeless, and they're trying to get things back to normal as far as the whole criminal activity goes. But that is a tough nut to crack. And the one section, which is literally just up the hill from where the cruise industry kind of comes in and out of in downtown Seattle, just a few blocks away from where those big cruise ships go, we've had some crazy crime. So you got to look at the right sections of a city like Seattle, and you'll see, oh yeah, that's not good. Let's not take mother-in-law there. That's not going to be a good beginning of her, cruise, especially since she flew in from whatever town, USA, right? Seattle isn't that bad. Well, there are streets, there are sections, there are areas, but the city of Seattle has done a pretty good job of kind of cleaning things up on the peripheral. So, it's got better optics. Whereas Portland and Minneapolis, from what I understand, optics are not good. Boarded up storefront, urban art everywhere. I love that term, urban art, urban dwellers everywhere. In Minneapolis, said Urban, we haven't turned a profit since February of 2020. The city has never recovered, and now there is shooting after shooting. That literally sounds like Portland or Chicago, doesn't it? But you do hear these stories. Unfortunately, Minneapolis just doesn't get as much PR for probably good reasons right now. But just in general, Minneapolis, just doesn't come across my newsfeed as often. The city nearly voted to defund its police department in 2021. So that kind of tells you where the sentiments are. And how is that working out? Is crime going up or is crime going down in your city after you tried to defund it? My guess is it's going up. Crime is a problem, Urban noted, but so too is the perception of crime. that encourages people to stay away. People don't want to go to an area where they're going to have to play the infamous dodge the human fecal matter on the sidewalk. They don't want to go somewhere where they feel unsafe. They don't want to go somewhere where they feel like there's a chance that some crazy crime could happen to them. Now, a couple of weeks ago, and I covered it in Peripheral, they just released the video footage of the guy who hit the 62-year-old man in the head with a metal rod. Second blow killed him. I mean, because the guy was doing the devil's work. They'd never talked before, but one guy whacks the other guy in the head. Second time was just a death blow. I mean, you've got stuff like that going on in the streets of Seattle, and people are like, you know what? I'm probably not going to go to that area. Yeah, good call. It's called the Blade. Stay away. Don't take mother-in-law there. You may have issues with your marriage, right? There is crime near our Austin location too, he said. This is the owner of Greg's, Wild Greg. But when people step outside, they see cops on the street and they know that somebody will be there to help them if needed. So it's that perception of crime, right? All right. If somebody's there, I'm okay with it. All right. You got cops lining the area. All right. Okay. We know that paradise isn't perfect, but at least we'll have some help. In like Seattle and Portland is so spread thin on cops that, I mean, what do you expect? So, you know, if you've got an issue in the restaurant district, in the entertainment district, you know, you might be on your own. Literally, you might be on your own. People don't really want to feel that way. When they go out and they know there's stuff going on, they're just literally, and the data says it all, right? The data says it. Yeah, I'm a business guy. I rely on data, actual data, not data that we just talk about like, oh, those sales aren't good. Oh, yeah, we're spending way too much money there. Oh, yeah, we are bleeding out money. We need to do something. Got to stop that bleeding. That's actual data, not data that we make up and perceive as for a reason as to why to shut down an entire state. Yeah. Based on the science and the data, neither of which were really followed. Well, here's what it says. Here's what we're going to do. Yeah, that correlation makes no sense to me at all. That's how life was for me during the pandemic. Really? The data, which data in science? Because all you're doing is just reading stuff that you want to read and kind of doing willy-nilly whatever you want to do. Talking about our governor. The number of daily diners in Minneapolis was down an average of 54.3% from July 2019 to July 2022. 54%. Restaurants don't run on a massive margin. They don't run on big margins. They run on tiny margins night after night after night. And some nights they don't have margins. They go negative. So they rely upon slightly better than average, right? To keep going. And when you're faced with a situation in Minneapolis, and you've got three others that are doing well, all right, the writing's kind of on the wall. The urban scribble is on the wall. Less than half as many people eating out now than before the pandemic lockdowns, according to data from Restaurant Observation Service Open Table. It was the worst COVID recovery rate of any city in the world tracked by Open Table. Minneapolis, worst city in the world. And it's blue. I would challenge you to find a city in the lower portion of this table that is Republican. It's been wild to see the data points. And you're like, okay, Republican. Oh, yeah. That one's not doing well. Democrat, liberal Democrats. Meanwhile, the average number of people dining out across Florida and Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Naples, and Tampa has surged nearly 30%. 30% up versus 54.3% down. It's from the exact same time period, July 2019 to July 2022. I mean, you might say there's some stuff in there, but those data points are pretty clear, I think. And knowing what we know. So, you know, I talked about the Cracker Barrel and how it pulled out of Portland, and people were not shocked. It's like, okay, you can't put a restaurant into an environment that resembles a war zone, a graffitied up war zone. It's not going to do well. And when you've got ongoing crime and the inability of the city to basically handle it, nor to want to handle it. That's what half the issue is here. Maybe more than half the issue here in Seattle. You've got prosecutors that, you know, we just We just want to believe in our fellow human being and judges that do the same. It's okay. No bond. You're good. Yeah, I mean, you're a 17th time offender, but I mean, in my book, that's almost like you've never done a crime before at all. Here's your hall pass. Promise to say that you'll show up in court though. All right. Do you promise? You pinky promise? Pinky swear? All right. We'll see you in court. Yeah. That's literally what our judges and, are doing. Urban's own operations mirrored the national trends. Business at his 2 Sunshine State hotspots is up 30% over the pre-pandemic year. Business in Minneapolis down in excess of 50. We just read that, right? So you've got this massive data point discrepancy. What's going on there? Oh, I don't know. Better appetizers at the ones in the red states? I mean, better looking people working in the wait staff? No. You got a business environment that isn't conducive to business. That's what it is. And restaurant, I think in particular, is a telltale sign because it's where people want to go out and be happy and feel safe and go do their thing. They don't want to be thinking, all right, can I leave my laptop in my car and be okay? Oh, no. Gotta lock that up at home, right? Urban is a member of the city council and a candidate for mayor in nearby Venice Heights. He blames local politicians, including Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, for excessive mandates and restrictions in reaction to COVID and for policies that stigmatized cops and law and order. That's all it takes, and you'll tank your hospitality. That's literally all it takes. It doesn't take a lot. Seattle saw the same thing to an extent, but we've been working hard to kind of be on the comeback. Portland? It's kind of hosed, just like Minneapolis, right? The politicians, especially the Democrats, they're afraid of the woke mob, said Urban. They don't want to do anything to cross the mob. All right. While Greg Saloon in Minneapolis employed 30 people, the workers all learned on Saturday night from Urban that they no longer had jobs at the nightclub, which was shuttered at the end of business that night. So just a hard shutdown. People put a lot of energy and a lot of capital and a lot of money into opening these restaurants. And then they have a run for a little bit and then boom, they're done. And unfortunately, this could have been avoided. This could have been avoided by decisions made by politicians. So now we've kind of got that, backwards look of, oh, how'd that turn out? Yeah. So next pandemic, you don't shut things down. You keep it rolling. It's not what my governor here did. Close it all down. We don't want to have a couple hundred people die of the Rona. There are already about 25,000 fewer people working in Minnesota clubs and restaurants now than before the COVID pandemic. That's according to trade group Hospitality Minnesota. Total number of restaurants that have closed in Minnesota is unknown, but those that survive face a long road to recovery. I mean, it's just brutal for these restaurants to make it through a pandemic anyway, and they come out the other side, and literally, that Greg's Wild Saloon in Minneapolis, it did the best it could to keep going, but you get to a certain point where like, nope, done. We are out of here. Just like Cracker Barrel in Portland, right? I mean, these are not uncommon themes. We know what's happened. And you go to these stores, these restaurants, and you look at these stores and restaurants and you're like, okay, I can see what the deal is. You look up and down the streets and you just see a bunch of boarded up buildings and you don't feel comfortable. It's like watching the Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia. If you haven't watched that poverty porn, good Lord, that is some tough stuff to watch. That's zombie porn, right? You've got literally zombies from fentanyl or whatever it is that they're smoking. They are hunched over. They're doing that full body nod type thing, or they're just crashed out on the sidewalk. I mean, if you care about humanity at all, you just cringe and you just look through your cracks in your hands when you're watching that because it's just so disturbing. And we just let it go. Philadelphia, just let it go. They are so far beyond having any control over that situation. I don't know what it's going to take to fix, a street like that. But there's multiple streets around the United States like that. I mean, you got Skid Row in LA. I mean, just some tough environments for people to live in. And yet, LA is kind of, all right, this is where you guys are going to be. Post up shop. Let's do this. horrific for the people there. But these are people that are oftentimes choosing to live there because they can't figure out how to get into treatment, how to, go through detox, can't do whatever. And then you got the crazy people that are on drugs, and it's just this double whammy, right? So those people are impacting restaurants, and restaurants have to literally make decisions based on data. And guess what the data is saying? Blue states, blue cities, not so much. That have some criteria that are similar. Minneapolis, similar to Portland. Portland, yeah, not really a massive return to its downtown core. And people wonder, well, how did this happen? You know what happened. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have you been to a wild Greg Saloon? I mean, just the name of it, I want to go, right? Maybe Florida, since the one in Minneapolis is closed. They stopped the bleeding. All right. Thanks for being with me here. That's it for me on this one. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.